What's up guys, Matt and Blake from the Football Boots team, and today it is finally happening. We've got the death of the collar. Now wouldn't that be the best news in the world? Well, it's not actually the case, but what we can say is that collars on football boots are getting shorter and in some instances actually getting rid of completely altogether. So what we'll be looking at today is why they're actually getting shorter, and also what does the future hold for collars on football boots in general.
So the first ever collar on a football boot was this one. This is the Adidas Primeknit FS, launched in 2014, right before Nike launched their Magista Obra, but we'll get onto that boot very soon. So it's the world's first knitted all-in-one football boot and sock hybrid. So it had the highest collar. So the collar was there, pretty much going right up your calf. You probably can wear it with shin pads, who knew? But it didn't come out on retail. But this boot here, what is this, Matty?
So this was the Magista Obra, first launched in 2014, and this generally was the first boot to go onto retail with a collar. So it was a massive thing for football boots, and obviously something we've seen so commonly from this 2014 release.
So players like Andres Iniesta, Sergio Busquets didn't actually wear the Obra, the collared football boot, the boot Nike was marketing as their best ever sort of control boot. They were wearing the traditional fit, low cut Opus. So why was that?
Well, that's actually really significant. So brands like Nike, Adidas, when they want to market their big football boots, they want their biggest players to actually headline them in all their adverts, and that's the case with the Magista Obra, the first one. Iniesta was seen in all their adverts holding the Magista Obra and also wearing them a little bit, but it was very, very quick that he actually went back to that low cut version, which is something you're going to be seeing in this video later on.
So virtually a month later, for the 2014 FIFA World Cup, this boot came out. It's the Superfly 4. It also had the dynamic fit collar, pretty much the same design as what we saw on the Magista Obra. So all Flyknit with that Flyknit dynamic fit collar there. And the biggest player, who is this cutting the collar?
So this is CR7, so Cristiano Ronaldo. He was the headline player of the Superfly 4. Of course he was. He was Mercurio's biggest player. So they had to put him in those Superfly 4s. But one thing which you saw like in Iniesta and Busquets, they didn't actually like the collar. So what he actually did was, instead of going to that Vapor model, which was low cut, he actually had a lower cut version made in that Superfly 4.
So this is almost the perfect height for a collar.
Yeah.
You've tested collar football boots and you've tested traditional low cut football boots. In terms of collar heights, that is the best height of a collar. This here, which covers the ankle, yes, it's comfortable, but it's not really going to enhance your performance that much. It's all about comfort and personal preference.
So the biggest shame for me is looking at Ronaldo's boots in this top left-hand corner picture here. It is a Superfly 4, brilliant upper on that. It's also got flywire cables, and it's also got that low-cut collar, which is almost a perfect football boot because it doesn't need the collar. It's also a little bit bulky, and for me, I just find it too aggressive around the ankle. I find it a little bit too uncomfortable. So that is actually a brilliant football boot. So it's such a shame that was never actually made for retail. But maybe something we're going to see in the future is a low-cut Flyknit Mercurial boot.
So in May 2015, the Hybrid actually had a collar. This is the Hybrid Phantom 2, came out with that really stiff Nike skin upper, but they put the dynamic fit collar on the football boot. Maddie, you've worn this boot, how did it feel?
Well, for me, I think this is personally the biggest letdown of all time, and the reason for that is not that this was so bad, but the Phantom 1 was so good. So a lot of players out there, they wanted the Phantom 1, they tried it, they loved it. I loved it myself. Then this came out and it was just such a shame. Not only did it have a collar, but the upper was also changed. But the big thing was it actually featured a collar to go alongside the Superfly and also the Obra. But a lot of pros actually fancied the finish more so than the Phantom.
So I think a collar works best when you've got a Flyknit upper. This boot didn't have a Flyknit upper. It was the first collar boot to not have a Flyknit upper. It just had that Nike skin, that real stiff Nike skin. Chuck a bit of Flyknit on that lacing region and the collar. Then you've got a really nice marketed football boot designed for enhancing performance. But did players actually like that? This image here is Mateo Kovacic for Real Madrid. He actually cut the collar on the Silver Storm Hybrid Phantom 2s. He is one of many players to actually cut the collar on the Phantom 2s. They did enhance the collar there by moving the stitch line from the center, so it's on the center of this one, to the side of the boot, which did prevent a lot of blisters and abrasion on the back of the football boot. It was a good thing to have on that Hybrid, but that's pretty much the only thing good about the collar on the Hybrid Phantom 2. I definitely would go for the finish, the traditional design. Harry Kane, Wayne Rooney, big fans of the finish, and I'm pretty sure you are too.
Exactly, I'm a big fan. And also another player who actually liked the low cut model was Neymar himself. So he was again seen marketing all the collared versions, but he actually put the low cut. And not only that, he also wore a camouflage version as well. So he didn't like the collar and he also didn't like the upper. So he was actually wearing a camouflage low cut Mercurial Vapor.
So in January 2016, this boot came out. This is the first ever laceless football boot. It's an all knitted football boot. It's also laceless, but it did have a collar. So this is the A17 Plus Pure Control. We won't get onto this too much, but this one here had a prime cut collar. It was a collar. You've worn this boot, how did it feel?
Well, it felt okay. The collar itself was a little bit too loose for me. I just felt there was too much gap. If it does have a collar, I want it to be quite tight for that compressive fit. Yep. This wasn't actually that tight. But interestingly, so we did say at the beginning of the video that the Adidas FS, the Prime Knit, that was their first one, but that didn't actually get released. So this was actually their first collared football boot. But as we can see, it's actually lower than what you find on Nike's Dynamic Fit collars, which is almost what we're going to see later in these videos. The collars are actually getting shorter.
Yes, so players like Philipp Lahm, Manuel Neuer, they didn't actually wear it. They wore something like the A16.1 or the A16.1 leather. They just wanted that traditional low-cut design. A lot of players did prefer this one over the Pure Control. Pure Control wearers such as Pogba, Ozil and Rakitic were the only sort of headline players to wear the Pure Control. So Adidas did try to market this boot as much as they could, but players of Philipp Lahm, Xabi Alonso preferred the low-cut traditional Ace. So now on to the Superfly 5, launched for the Euros mid-2016. Had the same collar as on the Superfly 4, Maddie?
Yeah, so as we can see, it does have that same Dynamic Fit collar, the first generation of it. Nothing was changed until the Magista Obra 2, which we'll get into. But as we can see, CR70 in the new Superfly 5 still had his lower collar version. Now this is probably the main theme of this video. There's a lot of players out there on the pro stage, a lot more who want a low cut football boot compared to a high cut. Now the problem with that is all these big brands who are selling their collared football boots for a lot more money, they're not getting the pros that actually wear them as much as they'd like to. So all the young kids out there who are seeing their favourite players, they're seeing the players in a low cut version, which is actually quite a big problem for the brands because they want the ones with the collars to sell more because they cost more. So what we're going to be seeing is, like we see on the Hard Venom 3, they've also got a low cut variation, which is probably going to be the case which you're going to see in the future.
So what did Adidas do in mid-2016? They launched their Mercury pack. We've already seen this. This is the standard new colorway for the A16 Plus Pure Control, but this is a brand new Messi 16 Plus Pure Agility and brand new X16 Plus Pure Chaos. They also had scaled down ones, or not scaled down, just cheaper versions of the X16.1 as well as the Messi 16.1. But what do these two boots have? They both have collars, Maddie.
So they both got Tech Fit collars. On the Pure Control, we've seen that it's got the Prime Cut collar. This time around, we've got their Tech Fit. And again, it's not as high as what you find on Nike's Dynamic Fit collar, which for me, I think is a good thing, and also something which is actually the way it's going at the moment. Collars are getting shorter, and you're definitely going to be seeing this in Nike's future releases coming very soon.
So the type of Tech Fit collar, it sort of wraps just below. It is compressive. I think that's the best part about these Tech Fit collars. It is quite compressive. It's not like your traditional low cut, which has got sort of nothing compressing around the ankle. It does compress slightly under your ankle bone. It actually is quite good. I wouldn't suggest going any higher in terms of collars. Messi himself, what did he wear? Did he wear the Pure Agility? No, he wore this one. So he wore the traditional low cut design of the Messi 16.1. So this is the Pure Agility here. It's got that compressive sort of wrap under the ankle there. It's an okay collar. It's better than the Dynamic Fit collar in my opinion. But Messi, the main man for Adidas, did wear a traditional low cut design.
This is part 4 of our glitch code. Make sure you're watching the rest of our videos so you can enter the competition.
So July 2016, what did Puma do? So Adidas and Nike with their Dynamic Fit collar and Adidas with their Prime Cut and Tech Fit collars. Puma had to follow up with something, and they brought out their Evo Touch, which had this elasticated collar. Maddie?
Yep, so 2 years on from when we first saw the Magista Obra, Puma then took note and released their Evo Touch. And it does have a collar called the Evo Knit collar, but the first thing that you can see is the only height on the back of the boot up the Achilles. The rest of it is actually very low. If you didn't have it across the back, it would almost be a low cut football boot, which is very significant. I think Puma themselves, they know that you don't actually need a collar. I think they knew this when they actually released it, but they wanted something that was going to be very marketable and also sell a lot. So this is the reason they brought out the collar. Was it needed? Probably not, but they had to keep up with Adidas and Nike.
I mean, like leather boots themselves, when you buy a leather boot, Sunday League footballers, especially if you want a leather boot, you just want that low cut design. You don't need a collar. Imagine having a collar on a Tempo Legend or an Ace leather or an X leather. It's not needed. So yeah, the traditional low cut design would be better on the Evo Touch, but they did add that collar just in response to what Adidas and Nike were doing. So in July 2016, Nike updated the Magista collection with Magista Obra 2. Yes, it did have a collar, but what did they do with the collar itself?
Well, they actually changed the shape completely. So what we saw so far is that the Superfly and the Magista Obra, the first one, both had the original Dynamic Fit collar, but this was the first time Nike actually changed it. But it was actually a little bit lower at the front and also the back, so it had almost that kind of arch shape to it. For me, I think it was a good thing that they changed the shape, but one problem was that it was very bulky around the ankle, the sides of it. It just did feel very, very thick to me. Now, another problem that Nike faced with the Magista Obra 2 was they knew that Iniesta was not going to wear it. He preferred that Opus 1, and he also prefers the Opus 2 now. So what they had to do was actually sign Kevin De Bruyne.
Yes.
So it's going to cost them a serious amount of money. Kevin De Bruyne was wearing the Superflies, he was loving them, playing some brilliant football. So the game to actually change Silo into the Magista Obra 2 was a massive deal, and obviously going to cost them a lot of money. And obviously they don't have the most amount of players right now wearing the Obra 2. There is a lot of players wearing the Opus 2 because it is low cut, and also they changed the upper. But I think that is probably the biggest thing from this video. A lot of players out there, they actually prefer the low cut models over the high cuts.
So in November 2016, Adidas updated their Pure Control collection with their A17 range. Now this is actually the Pro version, but we originally saw that Prime Cut collar updated on the A17 collection, but they swiftly moved on to the actual better collar, the Sprint Skin collar we see on the checkered black one.
Yep, so it is a better collar. Now it is still a collar, but there is definitely a difference. When I look at that first generation of the Pure Control, which you'll see in this Red Limit pack as well, that to me is a genuine collar. It's almost like knitting material, something similar to what you find on Nike's Dynamic Fit collar. But on the new 17 Plus in this checkered black, and also one that we've got, it isn't as much of a collar. It's almost just like an elasticated material that comes slightly up the ankle, which is definitely a good thing. Because for me anyway, I want collars to go. I mean, I know it's kind of like a very personal choice. I know there's a lot of you guys out there who do like the collar. I just think it's a bit too much marketing and also gimmicky. So I think it's a brilliant thing that brands like Adidas and Nike are starting to actually getting rid of the collar, because I wouldn't like it to see in kind of 5-10 years time still around, because I don't think it's needed.
So in January 2017, Nike updated their Hybrid with their Hybrid 3. I was in love with it. They changed it from Nike Skin to all Flyknit. I was in love with it, but the collar itself, they again changed it. So it's a more anatomical fit. They market it as being a more anatomical fit around the ankle to do with agility, but that's really all marketing. They did it on the Magista Obra, having a more anatomical collar. But again, it's just Nike marketing their collars really, really well. We originally saw this as the standard collar on the Superfly, and we saw the Magista collar with that anatomical fit around the ankle bones. And now the Hybrid collar with that sort of slanted design. Again, it's all Nike marketing. But Maddie, the low cut design, you're in love with this one.
Yeah, so I think this is the most significant part of the Hybrid 3. When it was released, I ignored this one. I thought, yeah, the upper was really good, but it had the collar, so it wasn't for me. But the best news about the Hybrid 3 release is they kept a Flyknit Hybrid, but they gave it a low cut silhouette, which is massive. That is a huge thing, because hopefully we're going to see that on the Magista. A low cut Flyknit Opus 2 would be brilliant, and also a Vapor 12, which is low cut and Flyknit. I think that'd be massive. So this really is significant, and maybe the start of the collar going. So guys, is it really the death of the collar right now? Well, I think for the near future, probably not. We can see some blackout pictures here, but they are definitely getting shorter. A couple of Nike ones, a Puma one, and also an Adidas probably. They are getting shorter, which for me is good news, but what do you personally want for future football boots?
Man, I personally want no collar at all, but for kids out there wanting a collared football boot, I think the perfect height for a collar is something like the Tech Fit collar. So cut out the Dynamic Fit collar, just keep a sort of low cut Tech Fit collar, the same height as CR7, pretty much a traditional design or a really low collar. But that's all we had to say about collars. Is it the death of the collar? It could be not. Please vote in the poll card now if you think the collars will be around in say 5 years time. Thank you very much for watching, and as always,
we'll see you next time.